morning everyone, and welcome to my first making vlog. If you're new here, my name is Kate, aka the Woolly Vet, and typically I do knitting podcast type videos, but today I have a special project that I'm really excited to work on, and I thought it would be really nice to take you guys along. As some of you know from my previous video, my cousin unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer this year, and I'm really keen to do something nice for her. I wasn't really sure what to make, and I wanted it to be something really sentimental from me, something that required a bit of thought and time and effort that I can give to her during this time when I can't physically be there for her. So I kind of checked the internet and was asking you guys what you thought. I had a lot of really beautiful suggestions, such as prayer shawls, and different types of cardigans and woolen socks, and the ideas kept coming and I'm so grateful for them. However, the other day I had started my first sewing project on my new sewing machine, and I was making Ohio Quilt Stars, and I decided to make a small tapestry to put above my bed. And in that process I did the quilt stars and then I sewed those together with the machine, but then I thought I would try my hand at doing a little bit of hand embroidery or hand quilting, and I just really fell in love with the way that looked, and with each stitch I was able to kind of put a lot of thought and intention into each one, and I thought this would be really perfect for my cousin if I was able to execute a larger size project. So that's where I'm at today. I have purchased, you can kind of see over behind me here, I have purchased some fabrics from different places just over the past month or so for my own kind of sewing stash, because I didn't own any fabric at all other than one kind of dilapidated sheet. And I did splurge a little bit on these fabrics just because I wanted to kind of put a little bit of investment into this creative process as much as I put into my knitting process. So I did splurge a little bit. I purchased a lot of these fabrics from Blackbird Fabrics, which I believe is from Canada, and they stock a lot of this company called Fabulism fabrics, and I just really seem to be drawn to the patterns and prints that Fabulism stocks and creates. So I was really excited to have those in my possession, and I'll take you through some of the fabrics. Well, you'll see them all as we get started. But yeah, no, I am a bit out of my depth when it comes to skill. I don't really have a lot of sewing experience. I tried to make a quilt last summer on a friend's sewing machine, and it went okay. I didn't follow the instructions very well, and a lot of my corners were really unmatched and my squares were really uneven. But then when I did my tapestry, which I can actually show you. So I just started the hand embroidery on it, so it's not done just yet, but this is the starting. And as you can see, this one hasn't been embroidered at all yet for the quilt. So I do really love these fabrics, and I think my cousin would really like them too. She lives in Vermont right now, and kind of has always lived in the Northeast, more north than where I'm from, Massachusetts, and she always has kind of those idyllic fall seasons, or the idyllic seasons, and especially the fall in the north. And I just was thinking of a cozy cabin, snuggle up with a quilt. It'll keep her warm, especially as fall and winter approaches. And just, I don't know, something that she knows was made with love. That's what I'm hoping for. And I really want to channel a lot of positive energy, intentions, prayers, healing energy, anything that I can kind of pour into this project that will hopefully just at least send her some love through the mail. Yeah, I'm really excited to get started, and I thought it would be fun to document the journey, and hopefully there won't be any major mistakes. But yeah, let's get started. So before I get started, I just drew out the Ohio Quilt Star block pattern. I found this pattern from a YouTuber, and I'll be sure to link her in the description box so you guys can have a look at her videos as well. But this quilt star is really quite simple. You have an A color, which forms those triangles on either side of the point of the star. And then you have your B and C colors, which go on either side of those points. So one makes that inner square, and one kind of matches up with the kind of outline color. I'm hoping that this is making sense. And then you have your D color, which goes on all four corners, which will connect to the outer block between each of the quilt blocks. So from my quilt block that I just showed you guys, I didn't put any kind of a buffer between the stars. I just sewed them together, which is also fine, but I'm thinking I'll add a little strip of something between them. Okay, so I've done some more calculations and I drew out the pattern roughly, and I think I have a good idea as to what I want to do. So I'll do 4 blocks across, 5 blocks down, and then I'm going to add like a little buffer between each of the blocks, as well as little squares of fabric. So I think that that's a good place to start. I think, just to remind, this will be the D fabric, I think. I just think it's such a nice, they're just such beautiful flowers. They remind me of magnolias, and those have a really good energy. So I don't know. I just think this would be a nice fabric to break up the other more busy patterns that will be in the stars. Okay, so I've laid out all of the squares here. Whiskey's watching over them. And I just had enough. I didn't record my panic because I got to these last 2 piles, or well, I got to there, and then I needed another 8 squares, and I freaked out because I had used up all of the fabric, I thought. And then I looked in my little scraps pile and I found one strip that was just like, I think 5 inches wide, and it was just long enough for me to get 8 more squares. So that was really lucky, and a lesson to always save your scraps. So this is the rough blanket, kind of laid out. I have my sets of 4 at the top, and then my row of 5 going down. So I have all of my corner pieces for all of that laid out, and now I was thinking I would just cut out maybe 4 of each place and pick. I'll have to look at the notebook again to see how many fabrics I can choose from, but maybe I'll just cut out some like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'll just take out the fabric and just start cutting pieces to size and laying them out on top of their respective things. I might make a little sticky note for each of the piles so that way I can check off what letter I've already cut out for that stack. And then that way I know what shapes to cut out. I think that's what I'll do. Yeah, I'll do that now. Okay, so I only really had 10 clips, but I think that that's a good place to start for now, because since there's 20 squares, I'll just do all the work in half. So for this part, I'm going to take the A pieces and I'm going to make a diagonal line on whatever I choose to be the back side. And then I'm gonna match up right sides together with a B piece and a C piece. Yep. And then what I'll do is I'll do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side, press it, and then cut on the line, so that way I have another 5.5, well, another square that has this pattern and one of the contrasting patterns on the other side. Okay, so I've done all of these, and so they all have their seams on a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Anyway, it's a 1/4 inch from the center line that I drew. So I'm gonna cut each of these individually because I don't trust myself not to line them up the wrong way. And cut them and make a silly mistake just because I'm so new, so I want to analyze everything as I go. So to prevent any silly mistakes, I'm just going to cut each one individually on that diagonal line I drew, and then after that I'm going to press them down and then press them open and I'm gonna do that now. So we left off with all of our stacks that are all iron pressed down into their little triangle square. They're squares that are half and half patterns. And then now you have to line up the pattern. Oh, I brought a stack of not what I'm working on with me. Put that back over there. So now you have to make these types of squares, and you basically take them and it's this way. So you have it pinned, and you want to match up your corners opposite each other to make a little a little triangle, or like I think it's called flying geese when you've got like the two opposite each other like that. So yeah, so I'll try to film me matching up the corners, and then we draw a line down the middle of that, and then we'll sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I don't know what the term is for that. 1/4 inch from the middle line. So we'll do that, and then we'll cut it in the center again like we did last time, and then press it. So another whole set of steps, but then we're done with all of the difficult sewing and arranging and crossing and pinning, because then we'll just assemble the stars after that. So we might have 10 stars tonight. Who knows? That would be pretty cool. Okay, all right, let's jump back into it. Okay, so it's just about 10 p.m. now, and I took a little bit longer to finish these blocks because I realized while I was on the phone with my uncle, I just connected all of the same squares together. So I ended up having to take out all the pins and redo it all, which was kind of a waste of time. Well, not a waste of time. I just didn't do it correctly, and I hate doing things twice. So I was a little bit upset having to do that again, but now they're all done and they have the appropriate alternating squares. So these are all done. I think what I'll do now is, since it's pretty smooth sailing from here on out, I think what I'll do is I'll cut them into their triangles, press them open, and I'll see what time it is after that, because I do want to do some knitting before bed. And I do have all week to work on this. I just was on a roll, so that's my plan. I'm going to do this, see what time it is, see if I can make my star. Well, I probably won't make my stars tonight. I'll just make my stacks of everything tonight and pin everything together, and then I'll work on it tomorrow morning. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday now, so I just having my coffee just now. I had some breakfast and fed the creatures, and I decided I'm going to hop back in and work on my my stars. Right, so without further ado, I'm going to hop back into getting started. I'm gonna hop back in to making our stars. Okay, so I finished all my squares, cutting them down to their 4.5-inch square size, and now is the really fun part where I get to assemble them into their stars. So square number 1 is done, and I really like how it turned out. It's so many different textures and colors, and I really like the corner pieces. I think that it really breaks it up. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get through as many of these as I can. I probably won't record them all because I think it's going to take me quite a lot of time, but I will check back in with an update when I have some more stars done.
Good girl. Enjoying the sun. Just the best girl in the world.
All right, so it's about 6:30-ish p.m. So far, I have 4 of the stars done. So this is the first one. And then I've got the second one. Was he enough? I think she gets freaked out when I talk to the camera. The third one. Good girl, Whisk. Which I think I really like this one. And the fourth one. And yeah, so this is them. And I've got 6 more to go before I have to start over again. But I'll probably finish these ones today, and then I'll probably start the other ones tomorrow. Yeah, awesome. Good morning, everyone. It is day 3 of our quilt making vlog. It is Tuesday, and sorry if you can hear Whiskey walking around. I swear every time I start talking, she decides to come over because she thinks I'm talking to her. I'm just ready to get started with the quilt. I have made 10 quilt stars, and I'm just excited to have the other 10 done. And I had laid them out on the floor yesterday and had a peek of what it would look like if I just stitched the stars together instead of adding kind of a buffer between them. And I could really be convinced either way. So I think I'll finish the other 10 and lay them all out, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. I might put a little poll up on Instagram and see what you guys think on if I should do that or not. But yeah, I am ready to hop back in. It's a very gloomy day outside, so this lighting may change quite a bit, so I apologize for that in advance. But let's get quilting. Has finally cleared up, so we're just trying to sneak in a cheeky walk. So it's 6:15 in the evening, and I think I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I did 6 squares, so instead of assembling them all piecewise, I just made the full stars for each one, and I do like that better because that way I have my little organized stacks of everything ready to go for tomorrow. 4 squares left tomorrow, and then I can start quilting, which is really exciting, and doing some hand embroidery. So I'm going to get some inspiration off of Pinterest probably for maybe some hand embroidery ideas to put on the quilt. But yeah, I will check in with you guys in the morning. Okay, so I only have 4 of these left. I'm ready to start sewing, and we can decide if we want to sew the blocks together or if we're going to cut out some like longer strips to kind of buffer all the squares. Okay, 1 down and 3 to go. If you can believe it, I have just finished the last star. I am so excited. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out all the stars on my floor and have a look at how they look together if I were to sew them all together, and depending on how I feel, so if I'm like not really sure on the fence, I'll lay out some fabric underneath it and have a look at what that would look like spaced in between each of the stars. Okay, so I laid out the whole quilt and I just thought it was looking a little bit small. So I added the padding that I had originally planned on putting in between each of the squares, and I think it made a big difference, which is good. I did kind of forget to record myself pinning the first set of the squares and the buffer strips So I have the first set kind of pinned here in a very, it is organized, but I'm too nervous to stretch it out so it doesn't get all messed up. And then I also have the first set of strips like all pinned together pretty roughly as well. So I'm just gonna get started on assembling them, and I am thinking I might push to get this done today just so it doesn't get all messed up. Yeah, I think it can be done, hopefully, because it's just straight stitch, right? I always underestimate how long things are gonna take. Okay, so if you can believe it, I'm actually going to be sewing the very last row of stars onto the quilt. I'm so excited, and I will show you how I match up all my corners. Well, you can watch me match up my corners and sew it together, and then I'll lay it out for you guys to see. Good morning and happy Thursday. I'm definitely starting to feel the pressure of wanting to finish this by tomorrow. Now I need to figure out how in the world I'm going to get the batting for the back. I had gone to Hobbycraft and I bought batting, I think last week, but I don't think that I bought enough. And then when I laid it out yesterday, I really kind of gave up because it was really thin. But I was watching a video by, I can't remember her handle, but I'll put her name in the description box. I watched her video and she was showing how you can use scraps of batting and sew it together with a zigzag stitch, and then you can use that as your batting. So I'm thinking I'm gonna lay out my pieces again and see how much I need, because I'll have to do that anyway, because I don't think that Hobbycraft or any of the sewing shops in my area, I don't think, has batting that is as wide as the blanket is. So that is what I'm dealing with just now. I am really keen to get started. A lot of things to figure out, and one, not a ton of I don't have any experience. This has all been, I've been winging it, and I've got kind of lucky, to be honest. So I'm going to chug some water, and then I'm gonna have a coffee, and we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do. And I just got back from our big day of errands, and I got some more batting. I only got one of these. The other one is the one I had, so this one was the one that I had. So I got this batting. I got 3 meters. I was thinking I could just lay them out and connect them however makes the most sense. So I'll do that. And then I got a ridiculous amount of this backing. I like it because it's brown, but it has a little, sorry if you can hear Whiskey walking, really nice texture to it. Let me see if I can hold it up. It has almost like, I don't know if you'll be able to really see. So it has this cute texture. So it's ever so subtly this brown and slightly lighter brown striping. And then it has, going the other direction, stitching that makes it look like it has a little bit of lace and a little bit of, yeah, just like a little bit of texture. And I just thought it would be nice to have something like that on the back of the blanket. My concern and my novice is that I don't think that the piece that they cut is wide enough for the blanket, and I don't know how to join it in a seamless way without it being super obvious that I just stitched 2 pieces together. So I'm wondering if I have to cut like squares and stitch the squares together so it looks intentional. I don't know. I may watch another YouTube video and see what the recommendation is, because I feel like in my mind, when I see the backing of blankets, it's all one cohesive piece. And I don't know how people do that, because I don't think that I was able to find any of the backing fabric that was as wide as like the shortest width of the blanket. I also ordered some thread. Can't hold them up, they're too small. So yeah, I've got these colors here, which I think go really nicely with the patterns. Okay, I'm ready to start quilting. I'm thinking I'm gonna start by doing some of my little flower squares, like these ones, and I'm going to kind of try to make squares inside the square with this gold color. And so I'm just gonna wind a bobbin and get started with that. Okay, so I'm pivoting. Using the machine didn't really work at first because I need to make sure that I have an even amount of the batting on either side. So I'm just sitting on the couch with Whiskey and I'm just gonna hand stitch maybe a couple of squares and see how I get on. I wanted to hand stitch anyway, so it's not terrible. I just wanted to see if I could do something on the machine, but honestly, hand stitching might be better. So we'll give that a try. Good morning and happy Friday. Hopefully today is the last day of this quilting adventure. I'm really hopeful that I can get this done and in the mail to my cousin this weekend. I did make a lot of changes yesterday. I was having some trouble with my phone storage, so I wasn't able to get a ton of footage of the quilting and everything else, but hopefully that's fixed as of today. I did so much. I was so excited. It took me a little while to figure out how to make everything really even. I ended up having to really sit on the floor and really spread out the blanket and repin it because I had tried to use the machine. I had tried to do some hand sewing to get the corners in place and it just was not working. So I had to sit on the floor and really spread everything out and really get it to be even. So it took me a bit of time to get that right. I had to kind of rip stitches out and redo things a couple of times, but I finally got it to work and I'll show you so far. So the gist of it is that the brown ended up having the gold thread. So I did a line on either side, which created a square in the center square of the lining. I did some hand embroidery to start yesterday, which I've got some flowers and some paw prints and herbs and just different designs. I started this rose bush yesterday, so I think I'm gonna add some more roses to that. And then I have a bunch more of these brown rectangles to fill in. I know I said I was gonna do gold for the white squares, but I ended up doing green and I think I like that a lot better. But my issue with that is I've made the squares, but of course when I cut them from the machine and I didn't backstitch, which I'm thinking might have been a mistake. I don't really know what I'm gonna do, but I might end up having to just take the needle and thread and just kind of catch those stitches maybe from the back. And then, yeah, I think today I'm gonna try to go through and I'm not sure what I want to do for, hold on, I'll show you, for these parts of the triangle, or these parts of the quilt block, because the whole thing and the center block of the star, so I haven't done really anything for the actual star itself. I'll look at some pictures on Pinterest, I think, and see what people have done for quilting the quilt stars, because I don't really, I kind of have already done the square and I've done some straight lines, but yeah, I don't want to take away from the quilt block look, but I also want to finish this today. There's a lot to be done today and it is a bit of a later start, so it's about 9:30 I believe right now. But yeah, I'm so pleased with how this has turned out so far. I really love the look of the hand embroidery. It really adds a really personal touch, I think, which is what was really important to me in the first place. I have to come up with some more design ideas, and yeah, so yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll have a try at, well, I'll look on Pinterest and then I think I'll have a go at finishing the machine embroidery today, because I think hopefully I can get that done in maybe 3 hours at the most, hopefully. And then that gives me the rest of the day to do hand embroidery and then put the backing on. So yeah, all right. I will check back in shortly. It didn't take me 3 hours. It took me like 5 hours, and my butt is asleep. But I have finished the machine stitching on the blanket. All of my stars are cut in, and I just did kind of I just did all of the triangles outside, and then the middle square I kind of just stitched together. And now comes the hand stitching. I really want to make the deadline that I set for myself. We'll just see how far I get. I don't know, I might have to save putting the backing and the bias binding on Sunday, because I don't want to rush and I want everything to look really nice and finished. And I don't think, well, we'll see how I get on today, but I can't imagine a world where I can do hand stitching on all of these panels and still have time left in the day, but we'll see. I'm just gonna have to get a little bit creative on what kind of speaks to me to stitch on here for her. So we'll see what happens. And yeah. It's about 9 p.m. and I'm showered, hence the monstrosity. And I'm actually in bed. We went to the Scottish Yarn Festival today and it was amazing. And by the time you're seeing this, I've probably told you all about it. And then I am actually working on the quilt just now. So I'm just doing some more hand embroidery, and I want to I'm probably gonna end up breaking up my quilt squares into a couple of days. So I'm gonna calculate out how many I have left after tonight, and I want to try to do like 2 a night after work and see how many days that would take. I do have a bit of a life admin day tomorrow, but I thought I could potentially make some time to work on some of my projects. But yeah, that's my update for tonight. I'm going to maybe make myself a cup of tea and just watch some Gilmore Girls and hand stitch and then go to sleep. But yeah, I will check in with you guys in the morning. Good morning from my bed. It's about 8 a.m. and the animals got me up pretty early. So I just made myself some coffee and I'm just gonna work on the quilt, watch some Gilmore Girls, and kind of have a lazier morning before I have to get ready for the week ahead. So I'll just see how much I can get done in the next like hour or two, and then I will make a plan from there. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. and yes, I'm still in my pajamas and I'm still in bed. But I'm going to get up because I need to go to the store and get myself sorted for a whole week of working in the small animal practice. But I've had a very productive quilt day. I was able to get most of the squares done. I only have 5 left. So I'm thinking I'll do at least 1 a day, and then that way by Friday it'll be just about done. That's the plan. I'm really excited to show you guys all of the work that I've done, but I'm thinking I'll probably show you guys tomorrow since I definitely have to get a move on and get some things done. But yeah, very productive day. Good morning. It's Saturday, September 6th, and I am so excited because I think this weekend we're gonna finish the quilt. I worked this week on getting the last couple of squares hand embroidered. I didn't take any footage because it was really kind of dark when I was working on it. I worked on it kind of after I came back from rotation, and I did like 1 or 2 squares and then did another square, and it was just kind of a slow process, but I got it done. And I'm really excited to show you guys the full hand embroidered quilt. But I'll show that in a second. My plan for today, so I got up this morning and I watched a couple of different videos on putting backing and binding on a quilt. One thing that I noticed is that there seems to be a lot of videos where the backing is put on before you start to quilt your quilt, so that way it all becomes kind of one cohesive piece. I opted not to do that. As you guys know, I had just done the quilt top with the batting, which I have now all quilted together. But to put the backing on, I had imagined kind of putting little stitches in between all of the little squares, or in between all of the big squares, or like in the center of maybe this square here. And I know I showed before, but I bought all of these bias strips, and I also watched a video on how to make your own bias and how to calculate your bias. So I still have to calculate all of the dimensions once I square the quilt, because once I attach the backing, I'll square it to make it all even, so the edges are all cut nice and straight. And then I'll measure it one last time and figure out how long or how much bias strip stuff I need before I sew that on. But we'll see, because I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't known what I'm doing at all the whole time anyway, but I particularly don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to attaching the backing. But I'm hoping it'll be more straightforward than the actual quilting experience. I think once I have the backing and the quilt top put on top, it should be pretty straightforward as to where I want to attach where I want to make my little quilted pieces or something to hold the backing to the front. I'm just really excited to be in the home stretch, and yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so I laid out the backing and I folded it in half the long way, kind of how I was shown in the YouTube video. And what I'm going to do is cut out all that excess on the bottom here, and so that way it's kind of the right size to the quilt. And I'm going to sew together, I'm going to cut this folded edge here, and I'm going to sew the inner 2 pieces together on that side, and then that way hopefully I will have a big piece that I can use as a backing. incredible news. It is Sunday and I have finished the quilt. And it's right here, all folded up. And I woke up this morning, last night I decided to try to do the bias binding, and I had watched some videos that showed how you would connect all of the pieces continuously. And every time I tried to do that, because I bought bias binding like kind of ironed bias binding, it had very specific ridges for how to fold them, and I could not for the life of me get them to match up properly, and I got really frustrated and gave up. And then it kind of came to me in a dream that I didn't have to connect them, it didn't have to be seamless, I could just insert one into the other when I ran out, and then it would be fine, like, because that's what you do at the end anyway. So I just decided I would just go around until I ran out and then insert a new one, sew it down, and then keep going. And it worked great. Some things I struggled with was definitely getting the edges to be even. And to be honest, I just didn't fuss about it because I think that the finishings look fine. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough. So on the lines here, I would have maybe in theory had a bit more of the bias showing, and then that way it wouldn't have such a big bias on the back. But at the same time, it really doesn't bother me too much that it's not perfectly even. Like on here, like you kind of get a bit for the corner, but then you don't on this side. And then it kind of rolls forward and then kind of rolls back. But I'm not too fussed because I think that the blanket as a whole looks pretty well finished. I don't know, I think it has that handmade look. It's not gonna be perfect. It wasn't the goal. I just wanted it to be something that is nice and cozy and was made with love and time, and I definitely did that, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I just can't get over the fact that I made this, to be honest. Like, look at the squares and the hand embroidery. I really like the lavender on this part, and the sunflowers seem to be kind of a couple of people's favorites. I'm not like I did these roses at night and didn't realize that I picked this like super bright green, but it's fine. Got some sheep and some more flowers on a vine. Got some wheat just because it's fall and it felt right, and got some clovers and some more daisies and just like little silly patterns, dandelion and acorns. So there's a lot kind of going on. I definitely did a lot of flowers. I got some leaves. I did like a hanging plant here, butterflies, some books that I don't know if they really give books on a bookshelf, but it's fine. Some stars, some bumblebees, some hearts at the bottom here somewhere. Where are they? There they are, kind of on the edge there. I've got a coffee cup with some steam coming off of it, and some mushrooms, which are another favorite. I did, what else? I've got some like pine tree branches that are a little hard to see on this particular brown pattern. I have like orange slice and some orange blossoms, which kind of looks like the sun, but it's okay. It just is. It's all handmade, all hand sewn. Put some raspberries in there. A rose bush, which took me a long time, but I really liked the 3D effect of the roses and the different colors. And yeah, so I did go a bit crazy with all of the patterns, and when I had started it, I did every block, and I thought to myself after I started, well, if I didn't do every block, I wouldn't have to have done every block, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. It would have gone by a little bit faster if I didn't do all the blocks, but it's not like I'm racing against any sort of time deadline other than the one that I'm making for myself. And I did want to get it done so that she would have it sooner, is kind of the only pressure I was putting on myself, just so she would have it. Because I didn't want it to get lost in all the other projects I have going on. I wanted to get it done as a priority. And then I also put this backing on. I was really nervous about putting the backing on because I didn't quilt it down like I know a lot of people do. But what I did instead was, which you actually can't really tell from the side, and it wasn't until I was halfway through that I wished I put the knots on this side, but what I had done was in all of the corners of the kind of light brown, here I'll try to hold it up, is if you can see I have knots on all 4 corners, and that anchors it down to the blanket on the backing, which you can kind of see the puckering there, but it's so slight. And I think in my imagination the knots go on the other side, but I didn't execute it that way for some reason. I don't know, I got carried away, and before I knew it, I had gone too far to change it. So it's fine. I think it actually makes the back look really cohesive. Like it's not, like it just all looks like one continuous piece. It doesn't pucker it too much, but it is connected. It's not like you can like really dramatic, like you can pull it apart, but it's not gonna roll because of the edges, and it's not gonna completely slide and be a pain. Because it is anchored down, and that way the batting on the inside, well actually the batting on the inside is quilted, so it won't roll or anything like that anyway. So I just quite like the look of it just being a bit flat in contrast to all the texture on the front. So that's the backing, and I just can't believe that it's done. What I'm going to do now is put together a couple of pictures of the quilt so I have it immortalized, and then I'm going to package it up into a box and ship it to my cousin on Monday, which is tomorrow. So she's gonna go in the mail, and hopefully my cousin will open it and know that it came from me and that she is loved and is being thought of every day, and that all of this positive energy and time and good thoughts. And we had talked, I think, at the beginning of the video about the comments that some of you had made about prayer shawls, and this is like the prayer quilt. It's full of just positive energy, healing thoughts, and prayers that she gets better really soon. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad that you came along with me for this kind of new content style of things. I will be sharing a video next week that's more knitting related, since this was a bit of a tangent off of the usual knitting content. But thank you so much for watching. If you liked hanging out with me and you'd like to see some future videos, definitely consider liking and subscribing. That's the best way that you can support me, and that way you won't miss out on any future content. And it was so lovely to have you guys for all of these very gloomy Scottish days, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And yeah, thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.